What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV, your source for the best of all things gaming each and every day. Today we're back with another set of Black Ops 3 First Look Reticles, the Thermal Campaign Reticles, Ingress, Spectrum, and Fulcrum. These three reticles are going to require the same challenge as any other optic requires, so that's going to be 150 kills to unlock the Ingress reticle, 350 kills to unlock Spectrum, and 600 kills to unlock Fulcrum. All of those kills have to come while you're aiming down sights with the thermal in campaign mode or in the combat simulator. So it's pretty easy to unlock these reticles. I find that the thermal sight's actually pretty usable in campaign mode. Unfortunately, in multiplayer, all the maps are very, very bright and thermal won't come in handy as often. So these reticles are going to be very hard to see. Even in my gameplay here, it's tough to see these reticles because the maps are so bright. The colors in the reticles themselves do not stand out. That is why I've included little thumbnail pictures in the top right hand corner at the beginning of the clips. For Ingress, that was right at the very beginning of the video, and the other two reticles you'll see in the top right hand corner as we progress through the video. So Ingress, first off, very, very cool reticle. It's a light blue, so it's very hard to see unless you're in a very dark area or unless you're in the menus. But what I find is interesting about this is number one thing that's going around in the world right now is Pokemon Go, right? Well, the Pokemon Go creators, before they came out with Pokemon Go, had a game called Ingress. And Ingress was an augmented reality game where you had to walk around and capture areas. And it's basically Pokemon Go without the Pokemon. And this reticle is very much inspired by that augmented reality game. It's the same color scheme. It seems to be the same kind of theme all over. Like the way that the reticle is actually designed, it reminds me a lot of this game Ingress, which surprisingly enough, I wrote an article about when I was working with Game Skinny. So I was just interested, I thought you guys would be interested to hear about that. It's just a little interesting kind of turn of events, or I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just interesting how things work out like that. Next reticle that we're looking at here is the Spectrum reticle, and this one is even harder to see. It's a light green, and it actually does turn up green in the gameplay when you're in a very, very dark area or when you're aiming through smoke. Unless you're aiming through smoke or you're in a really dark area, you're not going to see the green that well. Even when you're looking through smoke as of right now, it's very hard to see the green, which sucks because this is one of the only green reticles in the entire game, and still you can't see it because it's on a thermal sight. So it's a little bit of a shame that there's not enough green in this game, in my personal opinion, and I've talked about that before, but Treyarch really is obsessed with their oranges, like the Fulcrum reticle that we're going to see in a minute. So greens and blues and different shades and stuff don't show up that often, and it's kind of sad. I think that the reticles in this game, they should have been set up so that you can choose your theme, like your reticle that you unlock is the theme of the reticle, and then you get to change the color to whatever you want. Back in like original Black Ops days, when you could pick any color for any reticle, like all the reticles were different, and then you could pick colors for them. That's the way it should be in this game as well, but unfortunately it's not, and we just kind of have to live with what we're given. So the Spectrum reticle, it's kind of plain. It's not like the Ingress reticle where it's got all this kind of detail around the edges. Spectrum is very plain, very flat. It's just two straight green lines with a green line in the middle, and again, it's just very hard to see. But because everything is so hard to see on these campaign reticles, it makes them that much easier to use, because the only thing that really stands out on them is the dot in the center of the reticle. So it's kind of interesting how it works like that, how it's very hard to see the design, but because of that, it makes the reticle that much easier to use. So again, the campaign reticles are just a lot easier to use in this game than the multiplayer and Zombies reticles. The multiplayer reticles are kind of half and half. Some of them are really useful, some of them are just more for looks. Zombies reticles are 100% just in it for the looks. Just wait till you get to see some of these thermal Zombies reticles. Absolutely ridiculous looking, very, very hard to use, just the most ridiculous things in the entire game. Whereas campaign, you can definitely use them. They're more meant to be used as like a serious thing, because in the campaign mode, thermal sights overall are actually very, very useful in campaign. The Fulcrum reticle that we're moving on to now is definitely my favorite. It's subtle, but it also appears on your thermal sight in more instances than it doesn't appear. For example, the Ingress and Spectrum reticles, because the colors on them are so bright, and all the maps are so bright, they'll blend in and you won't see the colors. Whereas the Fulcrum Reticle, it's a little bit darker. It's like more prominent. It's this dark orange kind of color. It shows up, but at the same time, it's not going to get in your way. So it's very nice to actually be able to see your reticle on the thermal and at the same time have it not obstruct your view and have it actually still be useful. So the Fulcrum Reticle, one of my favorite. This one's going to require 600 kills with your thermal sight in campaign mode. It kind of reminds me of the multiplayer reticle Ignition. It's kind of the same kind of style, same theme in the middle of this reticle, right around that dot. But this one is just very, very nice to use. I almost use this on every single thermal sight that I actually put on at this point. Only thing I use thermal sight on is sniper rifles at this point. Like once I'm done First Look Reticles, only use them on sniper rifles. And when I do use the thermal sight, I either use the Fulcrum Reticle or the Stage Fright Reticle from multiplayer, which we've already covered. That is it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. Tell me which of these three reticles is your favorite. Is it Ingress, Spectrum, or Fulcrum? Tell me if you've heard of that augmented reality app Ingress before today and before Pokemon Go exploded. I just thought that was so interesting that I actually wrote articles about Ingress and about Pokemon Go like way back before the game ever came out, before Pokemon Go ever came out. And now here's this reticle that looks very much inspired by this augmented reality app or game that I wrote about, and it looks almost identical to like the same theme as the style of that game. So it's just very cool. Tell me if you've heard of that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.